The moment my daughter-in-law leaned forward and whispered, "Make sure Evelyn gets that glass," something inside me cracked. Not the champagne flute, the trust. I watched her smile at me across the table while she plotted to take everything I spent a lifetime building, my home, my savings, even my future. And when I confronted my own son, he didn't deny it. He looked me in the eyes and said, "You weren't supposed to fight back." That was the night I realized betrayal doesn't always come from enemies. Sometimes it comes from the people you created. But I didn't disappear. I fought. Before we dive into today's story, take a moment to let us know where you're watching from. We love seeing how our stories bring people together from all over the world. Your comments create a community where storytelling thrives, and we're so grateful to have you here. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment. Now settle in, get comfortable, and prepare for a journey that will keep you hooked from start to finish. Let's get started. I used to believe that turning 64 meant slowing down, not starting over. Every morning I wake to the sound of waves brushing the sand behind my coastal home in Charleston, South Carolina. The sunlight filters through the tall windows in my kitchen, spilling gold across the hardwood floors like a reminder that life still has softness in it. My garden faces the water, and before coffee, before anything, I tend to my roses. They're stubborn, like me, and refuse to bloom unless treated with patience. Sometimes I speak to them quietly, as if encouraging them might also encourage me. For 30 years, I owned a tiny flower shop on Bay Street. I built it with my bare hands and sleepless nights, arranging bouquets for weddings, funerals, anniversaries, watching entire lifetimes expressed through petals. After my husband Mark passed away, that shop became my world. Recently, I sold it. I told everyone it was time to retire, but the truth was simpler. I was tired of being alone in an empty store that still smelled like him. When the check cleared, I stared at the zeros like they meant something, like money could replace companionship, like it could hug me back. My son, Daniel, was proud. At least he said so. He used to be my shadow when he was young, always asking questions, always wanting to help. After he married Lena, our phone calls shifted. Shorter, less warm. I blamed distance, schedules, adulthood. But sometimes distance doesn't come from miles. Lena is polished, refined, the kind of woman who photographs her breakfast for social media before taking a bite. She never raises her voice, but her words have edges. She introduces me to her friends as Daniel's mom, as if my entire existence is a footnote in her perfect life. A week ago, Daniel called. "We're throwing a big party for your birthday," he said. I hesitated. "You don't have to do that." "You deserve it. Lena already booked everything." Booked everything. That was my first warning. Still, a part of me lit up. Someone wanted to celebrate me. After years of quiet birthdays spent with leftover cake from my shop, the idea thrilled me. I convinced myself to ignore the tightness in my chest. When I arrived at the beachside resort where the party would happen, everything was extravagant. White linens, gold accents, champagne flutes already lined up on the bar. It didn't feel like me. It felt like Lena's curated perfection, designed for an audience instead of a family. She approached me with a practiced smile. "Just relax and enjoy tonight," she said. Her voice was sweet. Too sweet. As I walked around the room, I noticed one detail that made the hair rise on the back of my neck. The champagne glass placed at the head table, my seat, was different. Taller. Crystal instead of standard glassware. "Because it's your night," Lena said when I asked. But her eyes didn't match her smile. Something in them flickered, intentional, calculating. I brushed it off. I wanted to believe in good intentions. I wanted to believe that the world, after everything I lost, owed me one peaceful moment. I didn't know then that the glass in front of me would change the rest of my life. The ballroom felt too perfect, too polished to be real. Soft golden lights floated above round tables draped in white linen, and a trio played slow jazz near the corner of the room. Everyone seemed to be gliding instead of walking. I stood near the entrance, watching guests arrive one by one. Most of their faces were unfamiliar. They hugged Lena, kissed her cheeks, and complimented her dress as if she were the star of the night. In my own birthday celebration, I felt like a prop, an accessory to her curated life. The conversations circled around designer shoes, home renovations, stocks, and who just bought what. Not one mention of flowers or simple joys. When people asked me questions, they didn't wait for my answer. They just needed me to stand still so they could confirm I matched whatever story they'd been told. I overheard a woman near the hors d'oeuvres table whisper to her husband, "She sold her shop and made a fortune." My heart tightened. I had never shared that kind of detail with anyone other than Daniel. I turned toward Lena, who smiled gracefully as she accepted compliments about the party. She radiated satisfaction, not warmth. Someone asked, "How did you manage to plan all this so quickly?" Lena laughed lightly. "I just wanted everything to look expensive." Her choice of words didn't surprise me. She liked impressions, not emotions. Image, not meaning. I scanned the room for Daniel. He was shaking hands, clapping backs, looking like the proud host. When I approached him, he barely slowed down. "Daniel," I said softly. He nodded but didn't really see me. "We'll talk later, Mom." "Just enjoy." He moved on, leaving me standing there with half a sentence still on my lips. I used to be his anchor. Now I was a background obligation. When I returned to my seat, the champagne glasses were ready. Tall, thin stems reflected the soft lighting. But only one glass was different, the one placed in front of my chair. Crystal, heavy, intricately cut. It looked like something from a jewelry case. Every other glass was simple and clear. A server passed by and paused. His eyes flicked from the crystal glass to me, then quickly away, as if he'd seen something he shouldn't acknowledge. Lena appeared behind me. "Remember, this one is yours," she said, tapping the unique glass lightly. There was a tone beneath her smile, too rehearsed, too pleased with herself. When she walked away, I noticed she glanced back twice, checking whether the glass remained untouched. My stomach tightened, a slow coil of unease. The air around me suddenly felt heavy, like humidity before a storm. I sat there trying to silence the alarm bells inside me. I didn't want to be suspicious. I didn't want to believe that my own family could be plotting anything. But every instinct I had, every instinct that came from years of surviving loss and disappointment, told me to stay alert. Later, as the lights dimmed for the toast, Lena leaned toward me. "Tonight is a new beginning for everyone," she said softly. A chill slid through me. Not a blessing, a warning. The room hushed. The music faded. Guests lifted their glasses. I reached for mine, fingertips brushing the cold crystal. And for the first time that night, I thought, what if I'm not supposed to drink this? The room hushed as Daniel lifted his glass. Everyone followed, the soft clinking of glass stems meeting the air like bells signaling something sacred. I stood at the center of the spotlight, my face warm from the lights. The unique crystal champagne glass in front of me gleamed like a diamond. People smiled at me, expecting gratitude, joy, tears, something poetic to mark the moment. Instead, all I felt was dread tightening in my chest. Daniel began his toast, voice steady and charming. "To the strongest woman I know, my mom." He spoke about resilience, about admiration, about how much I meant to him. But while he talked, I watched Lena. Her posture was rigid, eyes fixed not on me, not on Daniel, only on the glass in front of me. When I reached for it, just to adjust its position, her expression cracked. Her smile twitched. A tiny flash of panic shot across her face before she smoothed it away. My pulse kicked. Something inside me whispered, "Don't drink it." Mark's voice, my late husband, echoed in my head the way it used to when I faced difficult decisions. He always told me, when something feels wrong, step back. Tonight, that instinct roared. Daniel ended with, "Happy 64th birthday, Mom." Everyone raised their glasses. I lifted mine halfway, but my hand trembled. Without thinking, I turned to the guest sitting beside me, an older woman in a teal silk dress who had been chatting with me earlier. I forced a smile and said lightly, "Let's switch. Yours looks luckier." She laughed, surprised but flattered. "Well, if you insist." We exchanged glasses, a simple, harmless gesture, at least to everyone else. But Lena's reaction was anything but harmless. Her body stiffened, her jaw tightened, and her eyes widened with a silent no. She looked at the new glass in my hand, the way someone looks at a lit fuse reaching a stick of dynamite. Even Daniel noticed her sudden tension. He touched her arm, confused, but she jerked slightly, gripping his hand beneath the table. I clinked my new glass against Daniel's. The woman beside me, now holding the crystal glass, tipped hers back in one confident swallow. Cheers filled the room. Applause, laughter. But I didn't drink. I let the champagne touch my lips, just enough for show. The bubbles fizzled faintly, but my throat stayed dry. Moments later, the woman beside me swayed. Her hand gripped the edge of the table. "Oh, I think I need to sit," she whispered. Her face turned pale, and she sank into her chair. A nearby guest assumed she was overwhelmed. "Champagne hits harder on an empty stomach," he joked. But I knew. The realization struck like ice water down my spine. Lena's eyes darted to me, wide with disbelief that her plan, whatever it was, no longer made sense. I held her gaze. A strange calm washed over me, the kind that comes only after fear burns itself out. Whatever was in that glass was never meant for her. It was meant for me. I set my untouched champagne down, suddenly aware that the entire night had been choreographed. The guest list, the crystal glass, the forced perfection. I felt something shift inside me, not panic anymore, but resolve. Lena looked away first, and in that moment, I understood. This night wasn't a celebration. It was an opening move. The music picked up again the moment the toast ended, but the room felt different, off balance, like a painting that had been knocked crooked. Laughter rose around me, loud and artificial. The woman who had drank from the crystal glass was seated now, fanning herself as someone fetched water. I watched Lena whisper into Daniel's ear, their heads bent together like two halves of a secret. When I walked toward them, they straightened instantly and stepped apart. A few guests glanced in my direction, then quickly looked away. Their eyes held something between curiosity and discomfort. I felt like a specimen under a microscope, observed but not understood. I waited until Daniel was alone, then lightly touched his arm. "Can we talk for a minute?" He exhaled, clearly annoyed but trying to hide it. "We're in the middle of a party, Mom." Party. He said it as if this night was about him. I pulled him slightly aside, lowering my voice. Why was there a different glass for me? Daniel blinked slowly, avoiding my eyes. Lena just wanted it to be special. That doesn't explain why it vanished so quickly. His jaw tightened. "You're overthinking." He stepped away before I could respond, disappearing back into the crowd. I watched him go, feeling a sting I hadn't felt since he first left for college, the quiet pain of being dismissed by someone you love. Fine. If Daniel wouldn't answer, I'd go straight to the source. Lena stood near a cluster of her friends, one hand delicately balanced on a champagne flute, laughing as if nothing in the world could touch her. I slipped into the circle with a polite smile. The women fell silent, their eyes scanning me like I'd intruded on a private briefing. "I didn't realize I'd know so few people here," I said. Lena tilted her head. "Oh, I thought a fresh start felt nicer than nostalgia." Fresh start. A new beginning. A new chapter. She kept using those words as if she were rewriting my life without asking. I pressed on. "About that crystal glass." She cut me off with a tight smile. "Some things are just meant to stand out." There was a second meaning in her tone, sharp as a blade. I felt every syllable like a warning. I excused myself and returned to the table. The crystal glass was gone. A different glass sat in its place, ordinary, indistinguishable, too fast, too intentional. I spotted a young server passing by and stopped him. "Where's the glass that was here earlier?" He hesitated. "Ma'am, the lady in the silver dress told me to clear it immediately." Lady in the silver dress could only mean Lena. He walked away quickly, shoulders tense. People don't move like that unless they're afraid. An icy wave washed through me. The puzzle pieces were clicking into place, one by one, the extra glass, the whispering, the urgency to remove the evidence, yet without proof, I was trapped inside my own silent nightmare. The music swelled again, but I couldn't breathe. The walls felt too close, the air too thick. I slipped out onto the balcony, pushing open the glass doors and letting the night swallow me. The ocean stretched endlessly, black and unforgiving. Salt air cooled my flushed cheeks as I gripped the railing. If they wanted something from me, my money, my house, control over my life, then I needed to be smarter, quieter, patient. In the reflection of the glass door, I saw Lena watching me from inside. She wasn't smiling. She was calculating. I woke up before sunrise, long before the seagulls started their morning screaming match outside my window. My body felt heavy, as if the fear from last night had settled into my bones. My house was quiet, almost too quiet, and even the soft hum of the refrigerator sounded intrusive. I stared at the ceiling, replaying the moment the champagne glass hit the floor. The smell of salt water from the ocean drifted through the cracked window, but it didn't soothe me the way it usually did. I checked my phone. A text from Daniel blinked on the screen. "You left early. Hope you're okay?" I locked the phone without answering. I wasn't ready to tell him anything, not until I understood it myself. I made coffee, but the mug trembled slightly in my hand. Anxiety had a bitter taste. I kept seeing Lena's face from last night, her perfect smile fading into panic the moment the wrong person grabbed the champagne. Was it just guilt? Or had I truly witnessed something darker, something intentional? I pushed the thought aside, trying to ground myself in routine. Then my phone buzzed again, this time with a number I didn't recognize. The message was short. "Mrs. Hayes, it's Tom, the waiter from last night. I need to talk to you. It's important." My heart dropped into my stomach. Why would a waiter contact me personally? I typed a reply before doubt could interfere. "Where?" He responded immediately. "Seaside Cafe." "Back patio. Please." The cafe sat 2 blocks from the beach, hidden behind palm trees and bougainvillea. Tom was already there, sitting at a far corner table, hands clasped tightly together. He stood as I approached, visibly nervous. "Thank you for coming," he whispered. His voice shook. I sat down slowly, watching him. He avoided my eyes at first, staring at the table as though searching for courage. "I think I saw something I shouldn't have last night," he said. "Go on." He swallowed hard, then pulled out his phone. "Before the toast, your daughter-in-law stopped me and told me one specific glass was just for you." She pointed to it. It had a tiny crack on the rim. She said I needed to make sure no one else touched it. The world tilted a little. The chipped glass. She knew that was mine. Tom tapped his phone and slid it toward me. A short video played, blurry, but clear enough to see Lena handing him a small vial. She leaned in and whispered something. Her eyes darted around the room. My stomach clenched. "She told me," Tom lowered his voice, "she told me that the drink needed to be special, and that I should make sure Evelyn gets the right glass." A sharp ringing noise filled my ears. The cafe, the ocean breeze, the clinking of dishes, all faded. I was watching my daughter-in-law deliberately instruct a stranger about my drink. This wasn't paranoia. This wasn't imagination. It was real. I forced myself to breathe. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because the way she acted afterward terrified me," he said. "When she saw her mom grab the wrong glass, she freaked out. She made me take the glasses away before anyone could look at them." Cracks formed in my chest where trust used to be. Not only had she targeted me, she didn't care who else got hurt. "Thank you," I whispered.
It was all I could manage. On the walk home, something changed inside me. Fear stopped being a cage. It became fuel. I wasn't going to wait silently for the next move. If Lena wanted a game, she just learned I knew the rules. This time, I will not be silent.
I sat in my home office, staring at the neat rows of folders lined up across my desk. Tax returns, pension statements, trust documents, all pieces of my life reduced to paper. The morning sun filtered through the sheer curtains, casting soft lines on the hardwood floor. This room used to give me comfort. I spent afternoons here journaling, planning vacations, feeling grounded. Now, it felt like a command center in a war I never planned to fight. My hands hovered over the stack of documents I pulled from the safe. I wasn't searching for anything specific. I just needed to touch what was still mine. I kept hearing Tom's voice in my head. The video replayed behind my eyes, Lena whispering, her hand tightening around the vial. Before yesterday, my greatest concern at this age was managing cholesterol. Now I was calculating how to protect my assets from my own family. I opened my laptop to double-check my financial accounts, not because I didn't trust the numbers, but because I no longer trusted them. I logged into my email to search for recent statements, and that's when it appeared. An unread message chain tagged to Adam's old medical file. It didn't make sense until I realized the inbox wasn't mine. He must have logged into his Apple ID on my tablet weeks ago and forgot to sign out. My breath caught. The email subject line: Request Cognitive Evaluation for Parent, Urgent. I clicked. The thread opened to reveal cold, clinical phrasing. We need a formal assessment. Goal: Establish diminished capacity. Must be discreet. No signature, no warmth, just intent. My son wasn't confused. He wasn't manipulated. He was participating. The realization sliced through me. I pressed a hand against the desk to steady myself. The boy I raised, the one who used to cry when I left him at kindergarten, was now planning behind my back to prove I wasn't mentally capable. Not just to embarrass me, to take everything. My phone buzzed. Daniel's contact flashed on the screen. "I got your voicemail," he said. "Whatever's going on, we need to protect your assets before anything escalates." "I don't want to believe my own son is involved," I murmured. He paused. "Evelyn, trust the evidence, not your heart." When the call ended, I sat motionless. I thought about staying silent, letting time bury this mess, pretending nothing happened. That would be easy, familiar, safe. But silence was how people like Lena won. Silence was how people like me disappeared. I pulled a legal form toward me. Emergency Durable Power of Attorney, drafted by Daniel last year, just in case. I never imagined I'd be activating it against my own family. With one signature, I could lock every financial account behind a legal firewall. No access, no loopholes, no more vulnerability. The pen felt heavier than it should. I hesitated, not because I questioned the plan, but because signing meant acknowledging a truth I wished I never had to face. I inhaled sharply and signed my name, first slow, then with force. Evelyn Hayes. The moment the pen left the paper, something shifted inside me. I felt the floor steady beneath my feet again. I gathered the documents, placed them into a sealed envelope, and prepared to drop them with Daniel in the morning. I touched the envelope one last time. This wasn't surrender. It was declaration. "If they came for my life," I whispered, "they won't get my freedom." I turned off the light, leaving the office in darkness behind me. There was no turning back now. The first morning after I signed the legal papers felt strangely quiet. Not peaceful, just quiet. The kind of silence that happens after a storm, when the world holds its breath and waits to see what's still standing. I woke up earlier than usual, made coffee, and sat at the dining table facing the ocean. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like prey. My hands were steady. My breathing was slow. I told myself I had done the right thing, even if the right thing felt like placing a wall between myself and the person I loved most. At 9 sharp, I met Daniel at his office. The conference room smelled like leather chairs and fresh toner. He reviewed the signed documents, nodding with approval. "All accounts are now protected," he said. "From this moment on, no financial movement can happen without your consent and mine." I exhaled slowly. That meant Lena and Adam couldn't touch a single dollar. My home was now under the control of an irrevocable trust. No one could force a sale, file a claim, or move me into a care facility without my permission. I walked out of the building feeling taller, like I had taken back the steering wheel of my own life. By afternoon, the fallout began. My phone vibrated nonstop, missed calls, unanswered texts. I ignored them all. Then came the pounding on my front door. 3 sharp hits, aggressive and impatient. I knew that knock. I opened the door, and there he was, my son, Adam. His face was flushed, his jaw tight. "What did you do?" he demanded. No greeting, no concern, just anger. "I protected myself," I replied calmly. "You froze the accounts." "The trust paperwork. What the hell, Mom?" I stepped aside so he could enter, but he remained near the door as if he weren't sure he wanted to be in the same space with me. I noticed he didn't even look at me. He looked past me, into the house, searching for answers that weren't there. "You're making a mistake," he snapped. "Lena and I had plans." Those words hit harder than I expected. We had plans involving my money, my home, my life. Plans that required access to my assets? I asked quietly. He looked away, jaw flexing. "We were trying to build a future. You should want to be part of that." My heart cracked a little. I had spent decades pouring myself into motherhood, late nights, doctor visits, homemade lunches, birthday parties I couldn't afford, and now the only connection between us seemed to be money. "If you needed help," I said, "all you ever had to do was ask." Adam's voice rose. "You don't trust us." "I don't trust what I saw," I answered. His face hardened. I watched the boy I raised disappear behind the man he had become. Defensive, entitled, unrecognizable. He shook his head and let out a bitter laugh. "You're doing this because you're confused," he said. "Lena said this might happen." There it was. Lena said. She had predicted every reaction. She had anticipated my fear. She had counted on my silence. Adam reached for the door. "When you calm down, we'll fix this." "No," I said softly. "There's nothing to fix." He froze for a moment, then walked out without looking back. The door slammed so hard the windows shook. I stood there staring at the empty space he left behind, the echo of that final slam ringing in my ears. I protected my future, but I might have lost my son. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I lay awake in the dark, staring at the ceiling, replaying the sound of the door slamming behind Adam. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the hurt on his face, followed by the ambition behind it. At 3 a.m, I sat up in bed and whispered into the silence. No more crying. There were no tears left anyway. I refused to let heartbreak paralyze me, not when they were still out there, plotting the next move. By morning, a clarity settled inside me. Pain sharpened into purpose. I dressed, grabbed the folder with Tom's screenshots inside, and drove back to Daniel's office. We sat across from each other at the long wooden conference table. His tie was slightly crooked, a sign he'd been working since dawn. I slid the photos toward him. He studied each one carefully. "With this," Daniel said, "you're no longer just defending yourself. You're building a case." His voice held a steady confidence that helped me breathe. He outlined what would come next, gathering official documentation, securing timestamps, and making sure everything we collected was legally obtained. He talked me through how elder financial abuse cases unfold, the accusations, the burden of proof, the way abusers twist narratives. I listened, absorbing every detail. I wasn't the one being hunted anymore. I was preparing for battle. Before leaving, Daniel placed a small notepad in front of me. "Document everything," he said. "Dates, times, tone of voice, changes in behavior. Details win cases." On the drive home, something white on my front porch caught my eye. A folded letter poked out from beneath the doormat. I picked it up and felt the air leave my lungs. It was an admission packet, pre-approved, addressed to me from a long-term care facility. My name was typed neatly, as if my future had already been decided. At the bottom, I read Adam's signature authorizing the intake. He signed on my behalf. My fingers curled around the paper. They didn't just want my money, they wanted me out of the way. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel, letting the truth crush whatever illusions I still held. Adam had already mentally moved me out of my home. My son had chosen convenience over me. Rather than collapse, I opened my laptop and searched Elder Financial Exploitation Survivors Group. I found a support forum. Strangers, people like me, shared their stories. Parents betrayed by their own children. Signatures forged. Power of attorney abused. I read post after post, my chest tightening with recognition. I wasn't alone. The weight on my shoulders didn't vanish, but it shifted. Shared pain is lighter. I typed, "My daughter-in-law tried to slip something into my drink. My son wants control of my assets. I need advice." Within minutes, replies appeared. Practical guidance, emotional support, legal resources. I bookmarked every bit of advice. I wasn't just protecting myself anymore. I was learning how to fight strategically. At sunset, I did something bold. I returned to the resort. The manager recognized me immediately, probably assuming I was coming to complain about the spilled champagne incident. Instead, I calmly requested access to the backup security archive. To my surprise, there was a retained copy. A technician uploaded the footage to a USB drive. When I stepped outside, the wind lifted my hair. The ocean roared below, dark and relentless. I clenched the USB tightly. Proof, evidence, power. I had what they feared most, the truth. "They wanted me weak," I whispered into the night. "They forgot who raised my son." I did. Daniel's conference room was cold enough to make my fingers numb, though I knew the chill wasn't from the air conditioning. It was the moment. On the polished table sat everything I had collected: USB drive, printed emails, the intake form for the nursing facility, and Tom's screenshots. Each item represented a piece of truth I had clawed back from the people who were supposed to love me. Adam and Lena entered together. Lena's heels clicked across the floor like gunshots. She sat opposite me, crossing her legs with deliberate confidence. Adam avoided my eyes. For a moment, I searched his face for my son, the little boy who once held my hand crossing the street. But that boy was gone. Daniel opened his laptop. "We'll begin." His voice was steady, practiced. What followed was clinical, methodical, a timeline of betrayal. He played the video of Lena with the vial. Her smirk vanished. Adam leaned forward as the email thread appeared on screen, the words "diminished capacity evaluation" glowing like a verdict. The final blow was the nursing facility admission form with Adam's signature. Adam finally looked at me. "You weren't supposed to fight back." "I wasn't supposed to disappear," I answered. Silence. Heavy. Final. Daniel slid a document across the table. "You are both barred from her accounts and property. Further attempts will be prosecuted." Lena stood abruptly, grabbing her purse. "This is ridiculous." "No," I said quietly. "This is accountability." Adam didn't defend her. He didn't defend himself. He just watched as everything crumbled. When the meeting ended, I stood and walked toward the exit. Sunshine spilled through the glass doors, warm and blinding. I stepped into it without looking back. For the first time in months, I could breathe. Losing them hurt, but losing myself would have been worse. Losing them saved me. The weeks after the confrontation felt strangely quiet, not empty, just peaceful. I woke each morning without the weight of fear sitting on my chest. The ocean outside my window sounded different now, like a reminder rather than a warning. I spent my days walking the shoreline, rediscovering the rhythm of my own thoughts. For so long, I had lived as if my happiness depended on being needed. I thought love meant sacrificing until nothing was left of me. I was wrong. Healing didn't arrive in a dramatic rush. It came slowly, in small moments. Signing up for a pottery class, joining the online support group where women like me shared their stories with strength instead of shame, planting herbs on my balcony, making dinner just for myself, and lighting candles anyway. One afternoon, I sat on the sand watching the tide pull away. I whispered to the waves, "I forgive you." I wasn't speaking to Adam or Lena. I was speaking to the part of myself that once believed I wasn't worth protecting. The lesson wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming myself. My life didn't end at 64. It finally began. In the end, freedom isn't just walking away from what almost destroyed us. It's stepping into a life we finally own, with clarity, purpose, and courage.